Boeing has now at last opened shop once more in the wake of completing an unpleasant strike going on for around 2 months. What's more, when the organization was at that point battling monetarily. So what would be the best next step? How awful did this strike hurt them? Also, is Boeing's future really protected? Remain tuned. You know, back home in Sweden, we have an intriguing articulation that resembles this. Assuming you regard yourself as outside and it's truly cold, you can constantly pee in your jeans to warm yourself up, yet it won't remain warm for extremely lengthy. That is a seriously unpolished approach to making sense of what occurs at the point when you center around momentary increases while totally disregarding the drawn-out impacts of your activities, which is likewise an ideal portrayal of what Boeing did quite a long time back at the point when they chose to estrange their laborers for corporate benefits. So how about we start with some foundation here? A couple of months prior, I made a series of recordings about Boeing's change from a designing drove monster into the organization that we see today. In those recordings, I made sense of how they went from utilizing the trademark cooperating back in the mid-1990s to more with less during the 2000s, moving their concentrate totally finished to share cost and investor esteem. What's more, that was a change that truly started off after their consolidation with McDonnell Douglas back in 1997. Then in 2008, Boeing's mechanical engineer associations likewise went out protesting. Now that wasn't their most memorable strike yet, it would end up being quite possibly of their longest, and keeping in mind that the specialists' requests included the standard things like better compensation and advantages. That is not what was truly going on with that strike. Boeing sent off their 787 Dreamliner in 2004, a fabulous new stream, zeroing in on current composite materials and new frameworks. In any case, there was one more part of the 787 that Boeing needed to totally change. Furthermore, that was all there was to it: plan and creation strategies. They truly needed this plane's turn of events also, passage to administration, to be considerably quicker than that of their Boeing 777, which had entered administration in June of 1995, under 5 years after its send-off in October of 1990. However, eventually, that ended up being incomprehensible. All things being equal, the Boeing 787 didn't really enter administration until October of 2011, 7.5 years after its send-off. However, this is what's truly vital. Boeing's administration had made arrangements for the unit cost of the 787 to be lower than that of the 777, regardless of utilizing new, lightweight, more costly materials. What's more, heaps of totally new frameworks. The administration at the time accepted that they could accomplish that by reappropriating a ton of the plan and assembling of the airplane. Also, that the danger to their positions had truly set off the Engineer Association strike in 2008. That strike endured 2 months. Also, Boeing in the end wound up making a few concessions about the reevaluating. In any case, regardless of that, the tail part of the 787 wound up being made in Washington state. Presently, it was troubled to Boeing's administration about that 2008 strike, which had cost them around $100 million every day. Anyway, how did they respond? All things considered, after a year, Boeing President, Jim McNerney, declared that an arranged second creation line for the 787 would be put on the opposite side of the country, in North Charleston, South Carolina, where the labor force wasn't unionized. Then, at that point, in 2013 and 2014, when Boeing and the mechanical engineers were arranging their next agreement recharging, McNerney played out his ace card. He let the laborers know that on the off chance that they didn't acknowledge a few serious concessions, counting losing their proper organization annuity plan, he would move the development of their next airplane, the Boeing 777X, away from Washington state, despite the fact that the current 777 was at that point being made there. Subsequently, McNerney got precisely the exact thing he needed. However, he likewise sowed a seed of outrage and hatred among his key laborers. Presently, more as of late, Boeing's monetary difficulties have implied that they've needed to combine the 787 creation to only one office. What's more, which one do you believe that is? Definitely, the one in South Carolina. In this way, as such, the 787, who really set off the 2008 strike, is currently not generally made in a unionized office by any means. Presently, this wasn't simply an irritated point for the specialists. It wasn't extraordinary information for the organization by the same token, since this has implied that their general creation limit is likewise down. Boeing needed to make these and other extraordinary, as a matter of fact, cost-cutting moves in light of the overwhelming monetary impacts of the 737 MAX crashes and establishing. In any case, there is much more realities to consider around this. They additionally had quality and creation issues with the 787, which, strangely, needed to do both with the re-evaluated creation. What's more, issues at that spick and span South Carolina office. And keeping in mind that these creation issues were a portion of Boeing's costliest bad dreams as of late, they weren't the specific ones. Boeing additionally has had issues both with military agreements. What's more, obviously, that high-profile cerebral pain with the Starliner rocket, that I surmise that all of you saw. All in all, how awful are things right now after this devastating strike? Might Boeing very any point fizzle? Indeed, the short response is no. I don't think Boeing is in any impending peril of falling. Furthermore, that is on the grounds that, notwithstanding all that has been going on, the organization actually is by all accounts capable to get their hands on the assets it requires to continue to work. In mid-October, with the strike in its fifth week, what's more, forever, Emirates President Sir Tim Clark said something that numerous in the business had been hesitant to say without holding back. In a meeting, he expressed, except if the organization can raise the assets through a rights issue, I see an unavoidable venture minimize with Section 11 liquidation approaching not too far off. When that's what Boeing heard, ICE management burned through no time demonstrating that they could raise those assets. They're presently selling the two bonds and new offers in an arrangement that could raise up to $25 billion. Furthermore, what's more, they likewise have a credit understanding worth $10 billion and they're in any event, considering one more capital increment for a further $10 billion if necessary. Presently this should be visible as both great and terrible news. It's great since it shows that the organization actually has a steam on the lookout and that makes liquidation more outlandish. Yet, on the awful side, these activities are likewise pushing Boeing's obligation considerably higher, which as of now toward the finish of the year before, was around $52 billion. That is a ton of obligation. In any case, do you have at least some idea what's an outrageously miserable truth here? Boeing has spent around $68 billion in stock buybacks and profits beginning around 2010, predominantly to make its stock more appealing to financial backers. That cash doesn't simply overshadow Boeing's ongoing obligation, it additionally is an expected multiple times what they would have required to foster a fresh out-of-the-plastic new Boeing 737 substitution. So in light of that, we should view what Boeing needed to do to get their laborers to end this strike. What's more, how they will push ahead from this wreck, particularly taking into account that they soon have one more enormous discussion on their hands in 2026 with their Designers Association. It's precisely in cases like this that I generally go to Ground News, the present support, and my go-to hotspot for seeing the full story from each point, something you can do also by going to Ground News Mentor now. Ground News is a stage that arranges news from everywhere the world and assembles everything in one spot so you can think about how various outlets are covering a similar story. With this Boeing story, for instance, Ground News tracked down many titles, besides setting on each source, like a rating showing how emotional their printed announcing is. What's more, even who finances the source, giving you a total, balanced perspective on the circumstance. Yet, what truly separates Ground News is the means by which they feature assorted perspectives one next to the other. For instance, a left-inclining report from Franceinfo covered the specialists' point of view, featuring their compensation increments, while the right-inclining day-to-day Sabah of Turkey rather centered around the monetary effect of Boeing. You have made it extremely obvious to me that you are disappointed with the absence of setting and overflow of drama tracked down in established press. What's more, Ground News is an incredible approach to seeing past that. Seeing the two points of view gives a lot more pleasant, furthermore, more clear perspective on what's truly happening. Furthermore, this is where Ground News truly sparkles. So check this QR code or go to Ground News Mentor now to get half off the Vantage plan that I am utilizing for limitless access, whether you buy in yourself or send it as a present. They are supporter financed. Furthermore, I truly have confidence in what they do, So look at them. Much obliged to you, Ground News. Presently, how about we return to the story? For the people who gave close consideration, back in the mid-year of 2023, we really got an early clue of how Boeing's exchanges with its mechanical engineer associations could go, because of Seoul Aerosystems, perhaps of their greatest provider. In June last year, Seoul was arranging another 4-year contract with its own mechanic association. Also, everything that occurred there was pretty sane. The association authority acknowledged an early deal, however, their individuals opposed it. Then, at that point, after a moderately concise strike, Seoul consented to offer compensation increments of 23.5% more than a 4-year bargain. Furthermore, a marking reward. Yearly cost for many everyday items changes. Furthermore, other insured rewards. The specialists at last acknowledged that arrangement. What's more, returned to work toward the beginning of July. In any case, here's where things get truly fascinating. Since Boeing's financial backers had a quite certain response to that arrangement. They were not dazzled, on the grounds that they had been told that Boeing would accelerate their recuperation by fixing airplane creation costs. Also, this new Seoul bargain didn't appear to fit in accordance with that by any stretch of the imagination. Presently, the explanation the financial backers thought that would have been the situation was on the grounds that that was precisely exact thing Boeing's chief, Dave Calhoun, had told them toward the finish of 2022, which was likewise when he guaranteed that they'll make 50,737s each month by mid-2025. What's more, recall that number. It will become impor.